Hello and welcome to In Conversation With. I'm Kimberly Dondo, and in today's episode, I'm joined by Tom Ham, CEO at Calton Group, and Hayley Rabbets, head of the Verve Foundation. Thank you both for joining me.
Pleasure.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Hayley, you are pretty much a recurring guest at this point. You
I'm
might
a
just
regular.
be
How
a
did you
co-host.
not know how to get here then? How did I have to do the
I
trains
haven't
if you
been
knew?
here.
We haven't done it in person. This is the first in person, so it's very special.
There you go.
But we are here to talk about collaboration.
Yes.
We talked about it before, but now we're talking about it, you expanding a bit more. So can you both start by giving an overview of We Are Change and why it's so important for the financial advice profession?
Yeah, so I'll start. So We Are Change is an initiative that the Verve Foundation formed back in 2021. It was the reason that the Verve Foundation was born in the first place, so became a not-for-profit to house the initiative. Essentially what it does is we get sponsorship from amazing people like Calton and Fundment, and we put that money towards supporting people through their level 4 diplomas. We also teach them about the profession itself, and the whole idea is that we can help to get brand new, fresh-faced people into finance and essentially just kind of plug those gaps where we're seeing people exiting.
Okay. And back to you, Hayley.
Yeah,
So We Are Change has a strong track record of, bringing talent into financial advice, which is a massive thing that we need to keep doing. But what gaps in the industry does this program specifically address, and why was partnering with Calton and Fundment the right step for 2025?
So I think the most obvious gap is the number of advisors in the profession. It's widely reported that we have a mass amount of people retiring, some people selling up, moving on, and we don't necessarily have the new people coming in to replace them at the rate that we need it to happen. Basically, we should have set this up about 10 years ago, then we'll be fine. So that's, I guess, the most obvious one. And We Are Change isn't just for advisors. So we support people through their regulated diploma so that they can become advisors. But we also teach them about lots of different roles. And then it's essentially up to them what they decide to go on and do with that. Another one of the gaps that I think is really, really important is gender balance. So we have 70% of our students are women. We've done a couple of targeted cohorts specifically for women. So cohorts of 10, 20 people just working together to kind of get their qualifications. So we're bringing in new people, bringing in lots of women particularly, but that diversity across the board is really, really important. And I think they're the gaps that we're trying to fill. And in terms of partnering with Calton and with Fundment, to be frank, I'm really bored of hearing everyone go, we need more advisors, and then not doing anything about it, or, not really addressing these problems head on. And what's really refreshing about these guys is that they've gone, money where my mouth is, let's do it.
Yeah.
And it's not just about let's give you the money and get those people to get their qualifications. But Tom and I have spoken over, about 6-9 months?
It's over. We passed our year anniversary of being pals, so it's been over a year that we've been talking about it.
Yeah, and it's about that collaborative approach. So it's not just saying we're going to give you this money and get the qualifications. It's more so how can we be involved? How can we help to shape where these students are going? How can we plug the gaps that the foundation has? Because we have so many people in all across the UK, we can't deliver everything. We can get them their exams, we can teach them about the profession, but particularly like soft skills, and we'll come on to this later, it's something that we can't necessarily do within the foundation. So partnering with people like Calton is really important because we get that advisor perspective and we get those different areas to bring into the programme and support people, just that more full way of support, I suppose.
Yeah. And going back to putting your money where your mouth is. So Calton's mission is emphasizes innovation and accessibility in financial services.
Yep.
So how does sponsoring these cohorts align with your long-term vision?
So there's a couple of things to that. So there's accessibility at two ends of the two sides of the problem. There's accessibility for people to get into the profession. So as with anything, and especially when you're in a regulated profession like ours, it's all very well having qualifications, but then there's that gap piece between theory and practice.
Yeah.
And so the bit that Hayley alluded there to is, when we started talking about it, I said, look, we don't just want to give you some money and walk away. And go like, oh, great, have fun. We want to be a part of it. So that's caused Hayley to sigh a little bit when, and the phrase, oh, you're one of the more involved sponsors, and it's this thing of, because we have a view, and our view is the Verve Foundation does a great job of getting people through the qualifications, and it's for companies like us to then step in and say, okay, along the way. So we're going to be doing some events for all cohorts. We're going to open them up to anybody who wants to come and talk about soft skills and talk about, look, here's a cash flow model. Here's what actually advising a client looks like.
Yeah.
Here's an actual client case study.
Yeah.
And here's as a real advisor dealing with that client. Here's the things that we do, and talking through cases and things like that, and giving people the opportunity to do some soft skills training and stuff. So we want to complement the great work that the foundation does on that piece. There's also this thing about accessing advice. So we're a firm that deals with complicated problems for people that quite often have significant assets. But I would love to see advice, access to advice widened out. And there's a couple of problems with that around regulation and how do we commoditize certain areas of advice. And we're seeing that with advice guidance, boundary review and things like that. But at the heart, you need people.
Yeah.
As much as AI and all that stuff that we all talk about, we all talk about all the time, can augment people, we still need good people.
Yeah.
And so every year that average age of the advisor sneaks up, and we need to be filling the hopper at the bottom or at the top as people leave. So we can do a couple of things by helping make it easier for people to get the appropriate skills, so they're not just getting a diploma, but also we then, by helping replenish the advice pool and grow it, will hopefully widen the access to advice.
Yeah, I think it is one of those things, going back to what you said about why weren't people thinking about this 10 years ago. I guess hindsight is 2020, so it makes sense. But the program does combine technical training with professional development. So Hayley, can you share a success story of anyone from your cohorts that piques your interest in particular?
And I've got a horrible feeling I've probably said this to you before on another podcast, but we'll roll with it. I've got a really favourite story, that's why. But I'll give you a bit more context before I tell you the story in how that I feel we help to prepare this individual for going into the real world and getting that role. So obviously we support people with the cost of the diploma, but the student has to really dig down and put the work in to get that qualification. I've heard some people in the profession say, oh, it's easy. These exams are easy. They might be for someone who's worked in the profession. For someone coming into this brand new, who maybe hasn't gone to university or has no idea about finance, is far from easy. And having to fit that in also around working full time, raising a family, having some semblance of a life outside textbooks, it's hard technically and to find the time. So I think being able to really kind of put that effort in and really put the work in is a really core skill that advisors need, in particular, to be able to generate leads and build up the business and speak to clients and do all of these things that they need to do, keep those plates spinning and work really hard in the early days to be a very successful advisor. So I think this almost self-learning and self-directed study is really important. So we offer the support, of course, but essentially it's down to the individual to put the work in and get that exam. The other part of it is finding a role. So we do have sponsors can recruit from the talent pool. So hopefully we're going to get you some great recruits, Tom. But also they have to go out and find the roles themselves, the students. So we teach them about how to build their network. We teach them about the importance of building that network. And then it's down to them really to go out there and find a role. So how all of this translates into my favourite story is that we had a student on one of our earlier cohorts who worked at Asda. He worked his way up. He was a store manager. He was studying around his children and, you know, progressing in his current role and having a life and all of that kind of stuff. He was doing early mornings. He was doing late nights. He was really putting the work in because he was so passionate about getting this role and being in the profession and doing something really worthwhile.
Yeah.
And I remember during one of our one-to-ones, he said to me, I want to be a role model for my kids. I want to show them, I know, I want to show them what hard work equates to, like seeing daddy do something incredible and like really help people with their finances. So he obviously put the work in, he got his diploma. I think he got everything first time as well, which is just mad.
Show off.
And then he got himself out there. So he got a bonus at Asda and he quit his job and he phoned me up and he was like, I've quit. And I was like, cool, have you got a role? He's like, no. I was like, but he spent that time living off his bonus, really putting in the hours to network and find the right company. He ended up with something like 3 or 4 offers on the table, and it was then a chance for him to choose the right fit for him and the place that was going to give him the career progression that he wanted. And yeah, he's a trainee paraplanner on target to become an advisor, and it's just, I love it. I'm so proud of him. It's incredible.
Thinking about him juggling all that, like,
Right.
I hats off to him, because when I did my masters, I did not have children. I was still in my 20s. I did get a bursary, which like alleviated so much of my worries at the time and allowed me to focus on the studying and not too much on like trying to make money outside so that I could pay for this. But yeah, that whole self-study thing, pushing yourself. But I feel like my master's was when I was actually serious about school. I think the other times I was just doing it because I felt I had to. Yeah. But now I understood I was doing it for me and my future, and like he was doing it for his children as well, to be a role model, which is pretty amazing.
So amazing.
So yeah, I can't wait to hear more fun stories from other people. And Tom, you have mentioned making financial services better and more accessible. So how does nurturing new talent through We Are Change break down barriers for underrepresented groups entering the profession?
So there's a few things. I mean, so it might be that, you know, one of the underrepresented groups that we might have is down to social economic factors rather than anything else. And we're providing effectively a scholarship, you know, for exams. So effectively, and also there's also the social barrier. So it's quite, you know, everyone likes to take the mick out of me for wearing gilets and red trousers now and then and for being terribly posh. But I actually come from a mining village in West Yorkshire, and what's happened is over the years, I have, for me, a lot of it was. Yeah, for me it was a lot of it was actually having a load of Scandinavian friends who go, we can't actually understand a word you're saying, so my Yorkshire accent dropped off. But it's, you know, it's things like that, so we can help people not only who might not be able to afford the study through the sponsorship, but then we can give them the opportunities to become familiar with the world that they want to be a part of. And I'm not suggesting that everyone should change. No, I just happen to like to be warm in the winter. That's why I wear gilets. Fair. But everyone should be true to themselves. But it gives people a chance. So you can feel a real fish out of water. You know, when I first started, there's rooms that I've walked into in my earlier career and sort of looked around and really had to go, you know, you do belong here. You're fine. You've earned your spot. Go get it. And you know, so there's that. There's also, I think, you know, so if we take sex as a you know, gender as a barrier, you know, there's all sorts of stats around women finding it difficult to find a financial advisor they can trust. Yeah. So, and yet we stand when I present at conferences at like MMI, I stand and look around, and you know, there's overwhelming male sort of look like a hairline like mine, you know, maybe a bit older around the room, and not so many women. It's improving and it's great. A lot different 10 years ago. So it's okay. So are we going to change it on our own? No, but can we be a little piece of it? And, you
Yeah.
know, can we support the work that Verve are doing? Then great. So
Yeah, because I think I was on another podcast because I think when this drops, International Women's Day will have happened. But we're talking about what are the barriers of entry. And it is probably that, you know, I don't feel like that's the right profession for me, or I don't know where I'd fit into those groups, or just not maybe finding the mentorship aspect.
Well, you've got to see people that look like you and
Yeah.
that act like you in a place so that if you feel you belong. So I would, you know, walk into a room and, you know, and I'm far from underrepresented group. I'm a straight white male, so I'm not. But, you know, from that bit of socio-economic thing, I'd walk into a room and go, nobody here looks like me, talks like me, or whatever. So, and obviously there's a scale of that of difference. So we need to support people so that we can have examples that they can then turn around and say, look, you know, there is no barrier. You can and then that goes back to widening access to advice piece, because as well as there being gender difficulties with women finding advisors they can feel they can trust. And to be honest, you know, from some of the stories that I hear from the way women are treated in professional environments, you know, that sort of all fits into that of why do they want to sit in a room with a, you know, with a bloke, and it's going to be hard to build that trust to feel safe, especially when it's things like divorce. So there's going to be that with you know, there's going to be that with different ethnic groups as well, you know, and certain people not feeling comfortable going outside of their group. Now, is there a wider thing if we should all get on? Yes, but actually the first thing we need to do is, we can't solve world peace. What we can do is solve people's pension problems.
Yes.
So we need to be actively promoting, giving people good examples of from different communities, so that everybody can see, you know, there is a pathway.
Yeah, and also so that more people are aware of the financial advice as a profession as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So Hayley, how many or many firms express concern about talent shortages, but hesitate to act, like you said earlier. You know, people just like to moan, but never want to come up with a solution.
We're British. This is what we do. You know,
I'm going to get lynched, aren't I?
I'm a solutions oriented person.
Yeah.
So it always irritates me when people just come to me with problems without wanting to fix it. But what would you say to advisors who want to support initiatives like this, but they feel overwhelmed by the logistics? And how does Verve simplify?
So I think the really easy solution is give us some money and we'll do it. It sounds awful, but it's true. Like, we have sponsors. Tom was half joking, I hope, when you said, "Oh, you're a more involved sponsor, are you?" But we do have some supporters who are literally like, "I want to do my bit, but I don't have time to do anything else." And that's absolutely fine. They give us it's a couple of grand for a diploma. They give us that lasts 2 years. We have a student space. If they want to recruit from that talent pool in the future, they can do, all sorted really easy.
And it sounds like a great business, like long-term business plan.
Yeah.
Kind of to understand, it's an investment, really.
Exactly.
I mean, I know it's your question, but if I may, so from an economics point of view for us, I don't think it's
much cheaper.
I said to Hayley one day, look, there's something here that I'm missing. Sit down and talk me through the process. I was like, just treat me like I'm an idiot and talk me through it. And then halfway through, I said, so wait a minute. I can sponsor a load of people and I can do a good thing, which I want to do anyway. But at the end, I get to recruit from that talent pool. And great. Because actually, when you look at recruitment costs these days,
oh my God,
and to have had the opportunity to get to know people during that process. So we don't look at it as a cost, we look at it as a saving. You know, we look at it as, this is a double whammy for us as a business, to be blunt, and this is the message I'd give to other people.
Absolutely.
You know, we're saving money on long-term recruitment costs, and we're helping we're hopefully helping the profession and the wider environment. So you know,
it's a win-win.
Yeah.
And you would probably pay for a diploma anyway.
Yeah.
So you've got that one, you've already done it.
Yeah.
You don't have to support them through the studies. Time saving as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
simple way, money. But then we do have other sponsors who are more hands-on, like Tom. And I think I'd like to think that we still simplify that for you. So we do all the recruitment of the students. I mean, you have wanted to be involved in that.
But we could have just said, we didn't have to.
Yeah.
It was very much, do you, because we're of the recruitment piece with us, we actively wanted to.
Yes.
And well, I think if we get involved with anything, we like to advocate for it. Rather, so
Yeah, absolutely. So we deal with that part. We communicate with the students. We check in with them. We make sure that they've got everything they need for their exams. And if you think of that on an individual basis, if you were taking on, say, 10 grads at one time, that's a huge amount of work for you guys.
Yeah.
Whereas you can just outsource that to us for the cost of the diploma anyway. So, I mean, there's levels to it. And if you want to be involved, obviously, then you can do. But if you don't want to, then that's okay as well.
Okay.
Solutions.
Yeah. And Tom, what practical steps did you guys take internally to be a part of We Are Change? And how could someone else replicate that?
So we did a bank transfer. No, I'm just. We've not actually done it yet. No, we haven't yet. No, we haven't yet. No.
That's
I set myself
off
for that
the
one.
press. Tom,
Yeah, no. I don't, all right. No.
Outing yourselves.
Yeah, no. That's what you got a CFO for. So I mean, I think it's that thing. So what did we do internally? I had a conversation with Hayley because we talked about it a couple of times when we met socially, and then we were going to be sort of industry things. And then I said, look, we're both in town. Let's meet up, spend a couple of hours on this. And then I sort of mulled it over, and then basically, Calton, we've got a board, went back and we discussed it at board and said, right, if we're going to do it, what can we do to support the business? So we said we can do an event in Edinburgh and an event in London each year. So we'll do 2 events that we'll put on, and we'll basically, Hayley will coordinate the invites, and then we'll make it open to all cohorts and come along, and we'll put on various bits, because we can get our advisors in the business, we can get trainees in the business to speak, as well as myself and other board members, and we'll get external people as well. So it was all about sitting down and going, right, okay, what can we as a business offer besides money? Because it's just boring to just write a check for something. So we went through that, and I think if you're a smaller business, it's thinking about how can you do that without perhaps writing a check. So we talked about the soft skills, and the insight into the different roles. So one of the things that we said we'll do some work experience. So if you're a smaller business that wants to do it and you don't have perhaps the resources, you can be saying, right, okay. We'll do, we can have someone in a day a week for a month or something.
Yeah.
Someone can, I get it's difficult with client data and things like that. So you've got to be careful what you let. We have, a series of case studies and things that we can let people loose on. But there's practical things that we can all do that don't actually cost money that will add value to the work that Verve are doing.
Okay. And how do you balance equipping candidates with the technical expertise and foster soft skills, which are critical for client roles?
So we do the technical trainings, obviously, through the diploma. We do workshops, so we do these around the different roles that people could do. And we're really keen that we don't pigeonhole everyone into the advisor role, because we talk a lot about the advisor gap, we need more advisors, so on and so forth. Not everyone that comes onto the programme will want to or be suitable for that role.
Yeah.
So what we encourage people to do with that particular workshop is look at their core skills and see where they might best fit. So which role would be best for them. We talk about networking, as I mentioned before, so they can go out and find that role. We talk about enhancing their learning, finding jobs, all of that kind of stuff. What we don't cover is soft skills. So we don't train people to be advisors, because it is way more broad for us than just that advice role. But that's when sponsors like you guys at Calton really come in, and Fundment too, because they will give the tech side of things. Calton will give the advisor side of things. We can give some context on some of the other roles. I've done every role apart from advice in advisory firms, so I can give some insight into admin roles, power planning. You guys can do the same. So there's lots of insights we can give, but I think until someone's physically in that role, it's quite hard to do that soft skills training.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you see on your side?
Yeah, it's really difficult. I've seen many a really well qualified technical candidate that when they get in front of a client, or even just operating in an advice environment, are it's sort of lacking in soft skills, and that's not their fault. It's they've never, I have learned, I always joke that Calton as a business is built on me being nice to people and occasionally asking for a favour.
Yeah.
Which is, we've very selfishly talked about Calton a lot. Hayley mentioned there, Fundment are actually co-sponsoring these cohorts. And that was, we're a growing business. We have other calls. So when it came down to money, we were not only were we kind of, it is boring just to write a check, but we wanted to have a bigger impact, and we couldn't. We have other things that other capital calls. So, I went to Fundment, who we're a strategic partner of, and said, "Look, do you want to co-sponsor this?" And they looked at it, and they're on a mission to make financial services a better place as well. Slightly different angle to us, slightly different angle to Verve, and credit to them being very let's get involved. So the soft skills bit, it's not just dealing with clients, it's dealing with partners in businesses, because there'll be tricky bits where something's not going quite right with a supplier, or with a platform or something like that, and you need to as much as you would like to ring them up and just go, "You're shit," we need charm and to
finesse
exactly. So that's the thing that we try. There's all these things, and as Hayley was saying, it's really broad. So whenever it's a bit like there's a saying, when you get a private pilot's license, that's you get a PPL, that's your license to start learning to fly, right? And that's what a diploma is. It's your license to start learning to be an advisor. And it worries me sometimes. I've met some people over the years who've been good, well-intentioned people, but they're basically like, and I'm one of them, I'm ashamed to say, when I was younger, it was basically like, I've got a diploma, I want to advise now.
Yeah.
And I was that irritating toe rat that got my diploma.
I know everything.
Well, I know I was a little bit of humility, but I was very much like, well, I want to. And there was a very, very good chartered firm in Edinburgh that offered me a role, and they said, you can come and be a power planner. I'd been in financial services a while, so it's a bit different, but they said, you can come and be a power planner, and we're not letting you advise until you're chartered. And I was like, still one exam off chartered, and so I ended up in a self-employed role for a year, and actually that worked very well, and I have no complaints about where I've ended up, but I would have had a great career if I'd have swallowed my pride and not gone I want to advise, I've got a diploma. So it's I try and we did a thing this morning, and for one of Hayley's incubator cohorts, and my subtitle was is building a business what Tom did wrong. So when I give people advice, it's usually because I've done it wrong.
No, I think I appreciate that take. And also, I imagine maybe the people who are, when they pass their diploma, they think that's the hardest aspect. So then they think people are easy. I talk to people every day, but when you're talking to people about money...
Well, not even money. It's that money is the dirty thing that we don't all like to talk about. But so I'm great at parties because I'll just go, "How much is that? What's this?" And because I talk about money every day, so I don't really care. But it's when we're doing a really good job, we're talking about people's hopes, dreams, and aspirations, and to have the skills and the confidence to say I had an amazing power planner. My old firm, I got a trainee power planner, and she's now, I think she's head of T&C there or something, and she's phenomenal. And when she joined, she was like, I want to advise. And so she did a case. She was about to do RA6, and she did a case under supervision. And she walked out after the second meeting. And she turned to me and said, I don't want to advise anymore.
That's it.
And she said, it's just not for me. She said the responsibility of sitting in that room, and in comparative, it was, I'm not going to say it was a small case, it was a simple case. It was a very simple case, and that's why I'd got her to do it under supervision. And I'll never forget, and she's amazing. And she turned around and said, I don't want to advise. I want to be a great power planner. I have no interest in taking that responsibility. And I know that was simple, and I don't know how you do that every day. So that's the bit that people often don't think about.
I think that's a really key point as well, and how that translates into the people that we get within the programme, because they go through a really rigorous application process. Firstly, to make sure that they you know, they really appreciate the opportunity that they're getting, that they understand how much hard work it is, and they understand what then comes after the diploma. So like you said, that's hurdle 1. Hurdle 2 is then which role are you going to take? Hurdle 3 is can you actually do that role, and all of this kind of stuff. And we always kind of assess people on those people skills and how they come across in interview and how they can write and all of these kinds of things. So when we think about soft skills, and you said something a little while ago, Tom, about like it's really hard to teach it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's so key that our application process is so rigorous, so that we only get people who are that way inclined and who can speak to people quite easily and they have those skills. We obviously do have some people who aren't equipped in that way, and we don't refuse them on that basis. But I think I could sit here and think of those people that I can see going to be really good advisors, and those who maybe would need a little bit more training to get them up to that level, or who perhaps will, you know, go the paraplanning route, go a different route. So I think it's also about finding the right people for the right roles and helping them to be almost self-critical and self-analytical, to look at themselves and go, I might want this role, but would I be able to do it, and am I suited to it? So it's looking at their attributes and their personality traits, and then kind of helping them to figure that out. And we do that through like mentoring and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's a really good point.
Yeah, I think it takes a high level of self-awareness to walk in and be like, this isn't for me.
Yes.
Yeah, I was so impressed by it. I mean, I was sad because I thought she would have been amazing. So I was really sad, but I was so impressed. I was like, all right, great. Well, what do you want to do then? I want to do this. And she was amazing. I mean, it was great for me because, you know, she was my paraplanner that worked solely with me, so I was having a great time. But no, it does, and that's the thing. You know, it's so underrated in this profession as a whole. Like, you know, you're not the hero in the room. The client's the hero, and you've got to have self-awareness. You've got to be humble, and you've got to know you've got to not be afraid. I sat on a call with a supplier yesterday, and they said, I don't know, 3 times. I'll go and get an answer to it. I was like, cool, that's my favourite answer because I know I can trust you. And I do it with clients sometimes. Sometimes I do know the answer.
But you just want to
say, I'm
let them
not sure, let me
marinate.
check. And then they know that they can, you know... I'm not gonna just say something.
You're not going to bullshit them.
And that's the thing, and that's the bit we've really got to get with people as they go through the, because I'm shiny, I've got this shiny thing, and you know. But you know, I say this only half joking. It's actually harder to get a place on these cohorts than it is get a job with us.
Yeah.
Like when Hayley was going through the
rigorous.
interview thing, I was kind of like, oh right, are you that much testing? And you do, okay, fair enough. And the spreadsheet was much more intricate that we went through. I was like, okay.
The good thing is, though, we agreed.
Yeah, no, we did. Yeah, no.
I was going to ask about the recruitment process because obviously we always have conversations about how people don't generally know about financial advice as a profession.
Yeah.
So how are people finding We Are Change?
Because that's not true, Kim.
Okay. So I've been saying the wrong thing my entire
Honestly,
time at Money Marketing.
I think for a really long time that absolutely was the case.
Okay.
But from my little pocket of the world, we see people all the time. People are telling me that they want to be a paraplanner, and I'm like, how the heck do you know what paraplanner is? Because when I was a paraplanner trying to get, like, I think it was my car insurance, they asked for my occupation, and I was like, paraplanner, and they were like, paralegal? No. Paraplanner? Paratrooper? Absolutely not. Paraplanner? Just put I work in finance. It's fine. And I'm getting people saying, I really want to be a paraplanner. And I'm like, oh, okay, what's a paraplanner? And they'll tell me, and I'm like, wow, this is incredible. So I don't know if it's our marketing, if it's word of mouth, if it's, you know, people becoming more aware because of, dare I say it, TikTok. It's changing. It is changing. And we get so many people who are interested in a career in finance. And I will say this over and over again over the next 10 years, I'm sure. People do want a job in finance. It's getting the opportunity that's the problem.
Yeah.
So I think we do still need to, you know, make people aware of the careers and certainly of different roles. But I think the main thing is the giving people a chance and like doing what you're doing, really.
And that's the cool thing as well, about not just having Calton involved, but Funland as well, because obviously we talked about advice side roles, but as we grow advisors and there's more demand, and then suppliers will need to, platforms, investment companies will need more staff as well, and Funland, so not only on our cohorts we get an insight into the advice side, you also get an insight into what's it like to work in a platform, what is a platform, and things like that. So we're trying to give a well-rounded view, because it's the opportunity bit, it's the how do you get the experience of it, and so if you can help people narrow down the bit they actually want to do, they can go and get the experience, then we can help them get some experience, hopefully, so they get the right role, possibly with us, possibly with Fun.
And let's look to the future. Where do you see this growing? Where do you see this, or where do you hope to see it going?
So you said something to me earlier, which I thought was wonderful, but I'm going to steal your line now.
Oh, great.
No, go on. Go for it.
Fine.
You know what I'm talking about.
I was going to say the US tour starts now. No. Rolling Stones are supporting. No, so the bit So for me, success will look like, so in the initial bits it's going to be anecdotal. There's going to be people, it's going to be getting the odd person, people into the business and things like that, but I am always pontificating on stage. If I am stood at MMI or another conference in 5 to 10 years time, and I look around the room and the room looks different how it does now, that will be nice, and we can go and we can look back at our records and go, we've helped that. We just did a little bit, because we're not going to solve it. This is not delusions of grandeur here. It's all that bit about going back to a small firm helps, and and then it all compounds. We like talking about compounding in our world.
Yes.
But then the other thing would be, it's that thing of walking along. In the bits where we're all milling about and somebody comes up and goes, I was on one of yours and Funland cohorts. That'd be nice. We get, that'd be nice. And then getting to chat to them and hearing about the good career they've had. That to me will be success.
Okay. That's beautiful.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah, that was really beautiful.
That's why I was like, I want you to do it. Even though I was going to steal your line. And for me, it's, this sounds really geeky. Data.
Yay.
So
I was going to ask about metrics, but I didn't know if you'd want to talk about metrics.
Let's talk about metrics. So I really struggle with what's available right now for financial services. So FCA data tells us numbers. That's about it. Big firms, small firms. It doesn't talk about the makeup of those firms. It doesn't talk about people in support roles. We talk about all the time that there's a lack of female advisors, but I would bet a lot of money that most of them are paraplanners or in other supporting roles. What are the barriers from stopping those people moving into advice roles? Is it because they're not suited? Is it because they don't want to? Or is it because they've not been nurtured and encouraged? Certainly my story, I always just went, I'll never be an advisor. I've got my qualifications, I've done lots of different roles, I'm just never going to do it. And no one's ever sat down and gone, but why? I think you'd be a great advisor, Hayley. I mean, maybe it's because they could be a terrible advisor. But it's that nurturing environment, and I'm seeing it a lot more now. There's lots of, we talked about collaboration, but there's lots of people in the profession who want to nurture new talent. They want to see the profession grow, and they want to see that diversity. And we touched on it at the beginning about having role models, and whether that is male, female, ethnicity, religion, whatever it is, it's seeing people who you can relate to in roles that you want to be in. And for me, that success is about that being reflected in the data. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the FCA, there's different reports and all that kind of stuff, but it's something I really struggle with. I know the makeup of our cohorts. I don't know how that compares to the wider industry. And so it's really difficult for us to say, the number of female advisors has gone up. Is that because of us? Like, what portion of what we're doing is making an impact in the profession? So if anyone has any data, please let me know.
Share data with
Please share data.
That's how you make her happy.
Exactly.
The two answers, I thought it would have. I think people would assume it would be the other way around.
Yeah,
It's usually me going, data. Give me specific
Give me the
things.
data. I'm like, oh, I look at people and it's just
I just
great.
want my heart to be warm and fuzzy.
That is so weird. What have I done to you and what have you done to me? We've
Dunno.
been working together too much.
Don't worry, I'm still eating meat. It's fine.
Well, I mean, it shows the collaboration is working because you're
Absolutely.
like passing things off onto each other, which
Yeah.
is good.
Well, you've got to, like I said elsewhere about other things, we don't have, we as a business, I think it goes for Carlton. I think it goes working with them. I think it goes for Funmet as well. We don't have sort of supplier or supplier customer relationships or anything like that. We have partnerships and advocated. We advocate for people that we work with. So this was born out of a shared vision between the three parties. So and there's been a lot of toing and froing to get it to work. So.
I can imagine. But I'm glad you both did, or all three of you, or did manage to collaborate, and I look forward to see it grow.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for speaking with me today. This was a really great conversation.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Can I just say I'm really disappointed that we said collaboration a lot and nobody said stop, collaborate and listen.
Go on then.
Oh,
I just did it.
yeah.
Said it.
No, you've got to do it properly.
I can't.
Stop, collaborate, and listen. There you go.
And that is how we're going to end the podcast. Thank you.